Good morning, everyone. We are going to start in a few minutes. Is it too close? I can't get used to the microphone thing. Are you used to it? Yeah. So, I guess we'll launch in. So anyway, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming this morning. Welcome board and the New York City Force Youth Committee. Weird microphone. I guess before we launch into the agenda, I'd love if we could go around and everyone can introduce themselves at the table.
Bill Chong.
Joyce Duverce, Senior Director at USC.
Anthony and DYCD. Chris Neal with the New York City Workforce Development Board.
Maureen Anderson from XSVR of the New York State Education Department.
Evan McMullen from XSVR.
Jackie Chang, Research Arts.
Troy Odenhole, HRA.
Lucy Friedman, Visiting Fellow at the Pinkerton Foundation.
Liz Cribbs, Newburgh Berman Foundation.
Peter McCree, linked himself.
Tom Pendleton, New York City Department of Education.
Ray Winefsky, Consultant to Not-for-Profits and Foundations.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to first welcome, we have a new member for the Youth Board, Ms. Lucy Friedman. So welcome aboard. We're so excited that you've agreed to join this motley crew. We're very excited. You bring such an illustrious career, and I don't know what Commissioner Chong did to convince you, but we are utterly grateful. So we look forward to working with you, Lucy, and thank you.
I have the pleasure of knowing some of you. Just to give you a little background, for the 20 years prior to the last year, I was the president of what was initially called CAST, the After School Corporation, and then became Expanded Schools. And then now, as a visiting fellow at the Pinkerton Foundation, thinking about youth employment issues. So very, very relevant to the work that you all are doing here. Prior to that, I started what was then Business Services and then called Verizon, and I think it was in that capacity we were a grantee of the youth board, so it's been many years. And Phil knows I work very closely with Richard Murphy, and thinking about that as I'm in this room, and most particularly when Dinkins was elected mayor, I headed a study group that make recommendations about drug abuse, and my major recommendation was to create beacons, and because obviously something Richard had thought a lot about, and so it was a well-developed concept, but I think our recommendation helped the mayor, gave the mayor more ammunition to go to create the beacons.
Hi, I'm Sally Trujillo with the Youth Board.
Okay, so the report is probably the longest I've ever seen. So I said to Anthony that the spring is probably the busiest time at UYCD. I mean, there literally is an event every weekend, except for Mother's Day and Father's Day and Memorial Day weekend, right? In fact, Joyce will talk a little bit about it, but we're in the home stretch. We have 3 more events this weekend. Our Sonic Film, DYC Film Festival, our Father's Day event in Coney Island, and then Step It Up. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the budget. We don't have an adopted budget yet for FY20, but we did do some proposed cuts that will take effect in FY20, which didn't get that much attention because they weren't as awful as they could have been. So, having lived through 10 of the 12 round of cuts in the Bloomberg administration, it was nice to do a budget cut that really didn't have this huge impact as the cuts did a decade ago. Our target was about 12.3 million, and as I've said in the past, 94% of our budget goes out the door to pay for services, either through contracts or through wages of some of our employment programs. More than 50% of this 12 million was non-program expenses. So kudos to our budget staff. We're being creative. The biggest reduction was what we call, in government speak, a funding swap. We took city tax levy dollars and swapped them out for state preventive funding. A number of young people who come to UICD funded programs are eligible for state designation for these preventive funds that ACS draws down. So it's about 4.7 million of the 12.3 million was as a result of a funding swap. So there will be no cut in funding, essentially, because we're using state money for city-funded programming. The other non-program cut was after 23 years, we surrendered the space at 161 William Street, which goes back to the founding of UICD in 1996. So we had 2 floors there. The rent was about $1 million a year, and so that comes off our books. The city is still on the hook for it because the lease runs out to 2022. So ironically, the census staff is moved into there, but it's on their budget, not my budget. And then the other cut in non-program expenses was about $250,000 out of our $500,000 in what's called AOTPS, Administrative Other Than Personal Expenses, which pays for the rental of a lot of these events we do. The Apollo Theater, where Steph is hosting it, the School of Visual Arts, which is hosting the film festival. So next year, Joyce and her staff have been charged with finding free or low-cost spaces. And we've actually found one already, so I think we're in a good shape. And so that's something, if you guys, through your networks, are aware of. Free, I mean, one of the places, and maybe Tom, you have it in with us, is the High School of Food and Finance. We do every year the Rescue Recipe competition at the Institute of Culinary Education. ICE, right? Not, I always confuse ICE and CIA, right? Great acronyms, right? So we've done it the last 5 years at ICE, and it's pretty expensive. So we're thinking about transitioning that event to the High School of Food and Finance since they have kitchens. So we might need your help to get an in with the principal for next year. Okay. 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 Okay, so Daryl Rattray will follow up with you on that. So that was the non-program expenses, which is about close to 6 million or more than 6 million. And then the non-program, the program expenses, one was a program that the Department of Education lobbied for, which we said we couldn't afford it anymore, which was what's called summer wraparound services. And what the Department of Education came to us last summer to do is that there are young people who are in mandated summer school for half a day. And the concern, and actually this dates back to a conversation with Carmen Farina. She was concerned that young people who were mandated to go to summer school in the morning had nowhere to go in the afternoon. So we funded to the tune of about 3.4 million seats, half-day seats in schools. Last year, we had tremendous underutilization. I think we had under 1,000 young people. So we took most of that money and left about 600,000 left. So that was not a core program. It was an experimental program that didn't really pan out. So most of the people who would access UIC programs won't feel it. And the other part of it was in 2016, we advocated for a pot of money for future Sonic programs because we knew that many schools many schools were not eligible in 2014 because they had K-5 grades, but we knew schools were going to add 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So we I think got $10 million in the FY17 budget, and sure enough, we had I think another 30 or 40 new programs because schools that were not eligible 5 years ago became eligible, and schools that said no changed their mind. So we added 40. So the original 10 million we had budgeted for future programs, we spent close to 7. So we gave up the other 3 million. So again, I could say truthfully to the city council that the cuts had no impact on core programs. Can't say that next year, we'll see where we're at, but certainly this year we dodged a bullet. The other thing on the budget that I want to talk about is the census. Money was moved into our budget from the City Planning Commission. We will not be doing a census outreach. Julie Menon and her team, we're the back office, so we're processing the hiring of their staff. We're going to be potentially doing a procurement for them, but their staff are basically occupying the space we had at 161 million. So, so we have our own census plan, and as we, and this might be a topic for the fall meeting, some of the things we've done, but just to let you know that we already reached out to the Census Bureau, and they've done presentations to all our contractor meetings about how to access jobs. Because even though these are temporary jobs, they're well-paying jobs, and so we've been asked by the Census Bureau to be complete the count committee member, whatever.
They want to list us on their website and each count post.
So
They're listing organizations all across the nation.
So we're doing our bit for DYC, and we have some other ideas that we'll present at the next meeting. And that's it. Any questions? No?
Thank you, Commissioner. So next we have a report from the Programs Committee. Oh, yeah, he just asked. Yeah.
Thanks. By the way, Commissioner, it's amazing that you had dealt with the budget cuts and kept all the programs intact. I mean, that's really impressive, and I'm really happy. So,
Budget staff.
Yeah.
Very creative.
Yeah, that's very impressive. So I just want to spend a minute talking about the program committee, and for Lucy and anyone that's new to this, we meet usually in between board meetings just to go deeper on certain things at DYCD programs that they manage, and it's really wonderful. So I encourage everyone, if you have the chance to attend. This was probably my most favorite one, and it was on the Fatherhood Initiative. There's a team of 2 people that run the fatherhood programs for DYCD. They've been doing it since 2002. And the big picture is that the mission of this group is to encourage fathers to become more personally involved with their children and help give them the tools to do so with different training and different support, and also to better relate to their co-parents, because they'll be co-parenting for a long time. And I just want to read something that, my foundation also funds a lot of fatherhood initiatives, and I think that this is really interesting for everyone to know, that studies have showed that children with involved fathers are less likely to get into trouble at home, school, or in the neighborhood, and that an active and nurturing style of fathering is associated with better verbal skills for infants, greater patience for toddlers, and better intellectual functioning and academic achievement among adolescents. So that fatherhood role, even though they might not be living with the child, is really critical. And I think it's great that some of the things that DYCD does, you wouldn't necessarily think that they were involved with. And this is one of those really important things that they do. Any questions? Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it one program, or is it active programs at multiple sites?
I would say that it's at multiple sites. Yeah.
It's funded. Hello? Our fatherhood programs go back more than a decade. They're funded with anti-poverty funds, our community services block grant program, and I think we were one of the first cities to have fatherhood programs. And so it works with non-custodial fathers, And I visited some of them. It's really amazing. It's a support system to get them back on their feet, to engage them with employment, to help them deal with issues of domestic violence and anger management, financial management. So all the life skills that people need to be contributing members to their families, they provide. And it's one of those programs, I wish we had more money to do because it's a small amount of federal money. I want to say there are like 20 or 30 programs around the city. We do an RFP. It's, again, a small pot of money. But again, and we have 46 different programs we fund, different programs. It's amazing. And it's one of the programs that often gets lost in the, Sonic and SYP and Beacons and Cornerstone get all the credit. And but there are so many other programs like that that do great work.
Are there any questions for the program committee? No? Great. So, thank you so much, Liz. One of the goals of the youth board and youth committee has been to increase member engagement. And as the commissioner mentioned early, there are quite a number of programs and opportunities for board members to engage in. We're really thankful that we have an increasingly active board, and so thank you for that. Thank you for your commitment to the agency, to New York City neighborhoods, and to our youth. And so we have a couple of members who are going to talk about some of the things that they've been engaged with over the last several months. So I guess we'll start with Mr. McCree.
Get this right. I had an opportunity to work with as a judge for the Young Sharks program. And Young Sharks program I thought was fantastic. It was, groups of teenage students as well as groups of middle school students. I had an opportunity to judge the middle school group and work for the, it was the semifinals. So I'm still waiting to see who won. I actually saw that all of the students were very enthusiastic about participating. It was really good to see the teamwork. Of course, each group was a little different, but they had some really fantastic ideas. And it was very difficult, I felt it was very difficult to come up with an idea, a business idea that was sort of oriented towards solving a environmental or social issue. So, which made it very different than, having some children come up with business ideas. So, it was, I think it's something that if any of you get an opportunity to participate in, I think you'll really enjoy it. I really enjoyed it, so I had a great time. And I still want to know who won. Okay, great. So.
Well, the middle school, I tried to get the middle school winner here because there was a scheduling issue. So the winner was this middle school program, New York Edge from Staten Island. They had a self-cleaning blender, and it was a fascinating idea. Their idea was they surveyed young people in the school, and they found out they didn't eat fruits and vegetables. For the reasons why people don't eat fruits and vegetables. So a lot of this stuff would be thrown away. It ended up in the waste stream. So they developed this self-cleaning blender to take the leftover food from breakfast and make it into smoothies for lunch. And they used a 3D printer to create the casing of the blender, and then they built their own engine. So I was not a judge in we had the culmination competition at the Young Leader Summit, which Joyce will talk about. So I just sat next to Daryl Rattray, and I said to him, I said I wasn't a judge. I said, but they better win, right? And they won.
And they actually, middle school students, and they also served samples of the smoothies. Okay, when they finished their presentation, and also the preparation that went into their presentation was phenomenal. They had charts on the wall, but the 4 or 5 children that stood up there, none of them turned around. They didn't need the charts. They were very well prepared, and they did a fantastic job. But their product was cool too. So it was great.
Thank you so much, Peter. Next we have, I'm like Vanna White. Vanna.
Hi, good morning. I'm sorry that I was late. I got stuck on the train. So on May 4th at Lincoln Center, we celebrated the 60th anniversary of Lincoln Center. We had a big block party, and we had 2 teams of Step It Up come and perform as part of our celebration. We ended up having about a series of different bands and artists performing throughout the day, and we really wanted it to really be representative of New York City. And when I was talking to the board members who were working on the strategy team for the day, they said they really wanted something that represented the city and was all boroughs and engaged youth. So I couldn't have thought of a better program than Step It Up. And they had we had some rain, but the kids were wonderful. It stopped enough that they could come out and perform. They were great. I think that program ended up going to Summer Stage as well. I'm not sure. But one of the curators from Summer Stage was there, so she saw them, and I think I saw them on opening night at Summer Stage as well, so it's great. And I know this Saturday, the 15th, they are going to be performing at the finals at the Apollo. So it's a really great program. They were really smart, great movers, great performers, but also really conscious of what they're talking about as well. So it was great.
Makes sense. So I had the privilege to attend the graduation for the student literacy. It was literacy, it was ESL, it was GED. I mean, it was the most moving event that I've gone to in years. So you had this one young man just blew everybody away. He was a young man who was on the spectrum, had pretty much school had given up on him. I think his family still supported him, but he was, had difficulties in school. And in this program that he was at, he not only was able to get his GED, he had also developed a stuttering problem when he was in middle school. So here this young man had written a statement that he delivered, stuttering at times, but pretty confident, and just plowed through it, but in such a moving way that everybody just was like ecstatic with him. I mean, he really, a reflection of the kinds of caring adults that work with him, that believed in him, that supported him. It was phenomenal. But then you also had young people, adults, and young adults that were there from all over the world, that had learned English, that were there so that they could get their GED and/or there's a literacy program as well. They just gave both their testimonials of what they had achieved, the support again that they had received from the programs that they were at, and they did performances. They had dance, they had singing, they had instrumentation. It was, and fittingly, it was at the Museum of American Indians, so I just thought the roots of it was that this is a country, that displaced Native Americans, and here you had a whole, cross-section of people that are making this country rich, and especially in light of Trump. It was, I think, the best in-your-face, presentation. Mm-hmm. There were other keynote speakers. Deputy Mayor Phil Thompson, I think, gave a real strong message that, we all came here, we've all been involved in struggles like himself, and that's his word of encouragement to them, to be civically engaged. So it all together was a great event.
Thank you, Sandy. That sounds amazing. Were the young people high school aged?
They were more adults, young adults. So 18 to 30-year-olds. I mean, there were some adults that had arrived and were learning English so that they could get their citizenship.
So we're going to try to do some news stories around some of the 12 best success stories and ethnic and local media. So I know the young man who was autistic. I definitely think there's a news story there. And he's going to circulate them to the youth board members. You can read their stories. It really was powerful. And this is something we used to do a decade ago, and then because of budget cuts, we stopped doing it, and then we resurrected it last year. And adult literacy, again, is another one of those programs like fatherhood that doesn't get as much of the attention and play, but it's invaluable because I mean, and there are waiting lists every year for these programs, and it runs the gamut. And so we're trying to make the case with OMB, and I know the deputy mayor advocate. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but we put together a new needs packet, and we framed this as adult literacy is part of the workforce continuum. If you don't speak English, if you don't have a high school diploma, you can't get a job. I mean, it's that simple. And you know, it's been frustrating because I've met with the advocates for adult literacy, and I've met separately with the advocates for workforce. They don't talk to each other. I mean, government is siloed, but I said advocates you guys should work together because it's really part of the continuum of helping New Yorkers enter the workforce. So, but I'm glad you made it. It's again, it's so powerful, these stories.
Yeah, now we get to talk to each other. No, there's such a great need, and even in the philanthropic sector, there's very little support for adult literacy. So it is a real gap and a need. So thank you so much for that advocacy, and thank you, Sandy, for participating. So I'll get to talk a couple minutes about the Girls Empowerment Conference. So last week, on the day where the young people were off of school, there were hundreds of beautiful young girls that had gathered for a day of wonderful activities and events, and we were able to have a panel discussion with them, and thank you, Jordana participated, and also Jackie was present, and a couple of other professionals from different fields, and it was really just remarkable day. I think everyone was so eager to spend even more time. Quickly the time goes by, and the girls were excited. We didn't get to stay for the rest of all the planned activities, which I'm sure were great fun, but it was another great opportunity to connect with the young people, to give them a little perspective of kind of our own journeys and what that could look like for them. To see themselves up on the stage was really lovely. So thank you to staff who did that on their own time, above and beyond kind of regular programming, as just their ongoing commitment to girls in New York City. So it was really lovely. So as you can see by members' reports, there are tons of ways to get involved, and please, I encourage you all to continue to do that. Speak with myself or Anthony individually if there's something that's particularly interesting to you, because as we've seen, there is no dearth of opportunity here, so we want to definitely continue to do that. So thank you all again. I guess next we'll move on to the review of the Youth Board, Youth Committee.
So there was a presentation that I had prepared, and again, apologies, we have a little technical difficulties. Leave me one. I didn't make, I don't know if I have enough copies for everyone, so some folks might just share. So this presentation was really just intended to kind of just build off the reports that we just heard from members around the contributions that all of you have made during the past program year. And I will have to agree with Alexa, and I think the commissioner is aware as well. I really feel like this is the one year where we've seen so much contribution from all of you in terms of attending events, getting involved, and it's really made a difference. And we really look forward to having your continued participation in the year ahead. So the point of this presentation was kind of just a quick recap in photos, and some of the things that were just discussed you'll see. And I wish I had it on the big screens to see, but I'll go through this real quick. So just to recap, our annual Smiles of Love gift drive. Thank you again for all of you who participated, made donations. Again, this year we collected several hundred gifts that we gave out to programs all across the city. A big shout out to New River Berman, to Liz again for your continued big contributions, and Nike also. Jeanette made some big contributions, and also thanks to all of you individually also made contributions, so that's wonderful. The next slide you'll see is the Brookfield site visit. If you all recall, Nyla spoke about this at the last Youth Board, Youth Committee meeting. This was the first time that we've had a Youth Board member host a visit of young people at their place of work. It's something that we asked Youth Board members and Youth Committee members to consider back in September, And Nyla took up the charge this year, and we welcome any of you to consider it for next year. As you can see, this is a great photo of the day. They had a great discussion. They learned a lot about the real estate industry, because that's the area of Brookfield that Nyla works in. Brookfield is a huge entity. They have all different lines of business, real estate being one of them. Next, the next slide. I love this picture because this is a picture that Alexa sent afterwards. And originally it was upside down, so I had to rotate it and everything. But it was I thought it was really candid. It was great. And the picture below, you'll see the Step It Up team performing. And as Jordana said, it was a rainy day, but it seemed like a lot of folks were still there in attendance. And I think this is a great opportunity for young people on programs to get additional exposure. I mean, it's good enough and great enough that if they make it to the finals, they get to perform at the Apollo, or they could perform at BAM. But to be part of Lincoln Center's 60th anniversary block party is great. And then this team got to be part of the opening of Summer Stage. That's great. I mean, this is exactly the type of strategic partnerships amplifying our work that we look to you all as youth board members. So, I think this was just so wonderful. And Jordana, thank you, and we hope to continue the partnership with you. Next slide. This was the first year, right, Joyce, that we did this? Yeah. Do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Our college and career event stems out of our mentoring initiative, and we had that day about over 100 young people join us for a day of workshops and talking about the different paths to college. So what we did this session is that we try to take an interesting take to make it interesting, not only teaching them or providing information about the different career opportunities, but also the different study opportunities that you can have in college, and how clubs can also be really advantageous while you're entering into your college career. So we had a lot of our members, staff, and friends from our fraternity and sorority organizations come talk to the young people on how service lives in fraternity and sororities, and how academics lives in sororities and fraternities, and they were absolutely engaged and had a great time.
So on this, we know that Ana Garcia Reyes, she's not here today, of Hostos Community College. They participated, they sent some representatives. And I know that Nancy Waxy and the Forum, they were trying to make it happen and participate, but something fell through this year. But it was great to see Hostos involved. Next slide, next few slides, Peter just spoke about this Young Sharks competition. You can see in this slide, Peter is hard at work judging. The teams. And what I will say about all these photos, and I can send a link afterwards, but if you go on our Facebook page, there's hundreds of more photos of all these events. So I did my best just to choose, a few snippets for today, but if you're interested in seeing even more photos, we have a wealth of photos on our website. And Molly, who is here at each meeting that videotapes our meetings, she is our photographer and she takes wonderful photos, so thank you, Molly. So that's our Young Sharks semifinals event. The next slide, as Alexa just mentioned last week, this is our first Girls Empowerment Conference. Great event. I think Tracy Calderon, who's our assistant commissioner for Compass, I imagine she's going to think about how to continue that in future years. Next, Ladders for Leaders. You've heard us talk about Ladders for Leaders so many times at this table. And again, definitely thanks to those of you around the table who agreed to be host sites. I do want to give a big shout out to Alexa, because she this year has helped us get some placements in philanthropy, which is a sector that we've been wanting to tap and get some young people into for quite some time. And we're starting with a small but mighty initial placements. We have 3 funders who are taking 3 interns together, and we hope to build on that. Do you want to say a few words about this at all, Alexa?
It's a work in progress, so next year we hope to really kind of expand significantly, but this is kind of like our beta testing with some smaller foundations to try to build a cohort. So the foundations are not only taking interns, but trying to do some cross-site visiting and build kind of a cohort feeling around the engagement so that they're not isolated in each of the organizations. So I'll report back.
And again, again, what this speaks to again is we're always looking for interesting, diverse industries to expose young people to that they may not think of themselves. And I think philanthropy is one of them, but definitely we always look for your advisement and participation and suggestions about other industries to tap and employers to reach out to. Next two slides, the Adult Literacy Student Celebration that Sandy mentioned. It was a great day. A lot of student stories. There were also performances. The deputy mayor, as Sandy mentioned, gave some great words to open up the event. And then the last thing I do also want to thank Sandy. When she's not here at the youth board, she works at the Children's Cabinet. And recently we got to talking and about the Healing the Hurt conference that we do here, which is some of our work about trauma-informed practices. We just had our Healing the Hurt conference a few weeks ago. And I know through the Children's Cabinet there's an early childhood roundtable policy work group, and they're also looking at this idea of trauma-informed practices. So we've had some back and forth between our staff and the Children's Cabinet staff. I think they're going to remain involved in some of the trauma-informed work. I believe that the Department of Health has a trauma-informed practices advisory work group on training that they're setting up. So I think some of our staff will be participating in that. And then also I know Sandy brought to my attention, and I think Commissioner, we could talk more at UICD about the Children's Cabinet 0 to 3 Brain Development Campaign. So we had sent some information out to some of our RHY programs and fatherhood programs, because those are some of our programs directly where there are young parents. But there may be other ways to get the word out about 0 to 3 brain development, and I'm thinking about that. So again, thank you to all of you for your contributions this year. This was just a snippet of all that. And actually this is actually a perfect segue into, I think, recognizing one of our members, Rayla Nefsky, for all her service all of the years. And I will turn over to the Commissioner to say a few words about Ray.
I know there's a presentation we have, but so actually I've known Ray for 22 years. And it's a funny story. I almost worked for her. She was the first deputy commissioner at HRA, and then acting commissioner under Mayor Giuliani. I know. I worked for Giuliani for about a year, so did William Barris Paoli. So we have to fess up to it. But I had left to take a job with a nonprofit. No, actually, took a job with HUD, and I wanted to get back into city government to vest for the pension. And so I reached out to William, who was the HRA commissioner, and she said, "Oh, there's a perfect job for you. Our first deputy commissioner is looking for chief of staff." So I interviewed with Ray in 1997, I think. Of course, William ran afoul of Giuliani and was exiled to Lincoln Hospital. You ran HRA, and then you followed shortly thereafter. So that's where our paths first crossed. But Ray has really been a true public servant for many, many years. She's through many different administrations. I asked her when she started on the Youth Council, which became the Youth Committee, and it was in the first year of Bloomberg. So she's been part of this body for 17 years. So it's kind of good passing of the torch with Ray leaving and Lucy coming on. But we wanted this moment not to go without acknowledging it. So there's a certificate of appreciation, which I will read with my bad eyesight. Certificate of appreciation for Ray Linetsky in recognition and appreciation of your service and invaluable contributions to the New York City Workforce Development Youth Committee and New York City Youth Board. You are an exemplary leader who served UICD, our funded providers, and your colleagues with dedication and distinction. A grateful city of New York thanks you for generously giving your time and having a positive impact on the lives of young people, their families, and their communities. Thank you.
I thought that it was time to sort of pass the baton onto someone else. I didn't realize until I met with Bill and also talking to Anthony how long it has been that I've been here. I didn't think of it that way. I've been very fortunate in my career. There's been the whole of the career, there's been probably no population description that I've not had a way to learn about and hopefully to have impact on. And in terms of DYCD, I said to the commissioner earlier, I remember DFY and the Department for Youth when I was a contractor. You know, when I was working and running organizations in the city before I left to do other things. In all of these years, there's not been a population or issue that has not grabbed my passion and attention. But what has always been part of my passion, I would say, has to do with young people. And so there were things that I was able to do or I tried to do in terms of my professional life and in running agencies that did things. But in my heart and soul, what would always get me, no matter what I've done professionally, has to do with youth. And in my letter, ultimate formal letter to the commissioner, one of the things I believe that I mentioned in there is that clearly DYCD operates where there's money. You know, there are all kinds of issues that can't be addressed because the money is not there. That being said, and I say this sort of banging on Chris's head as well, in my soul around this is that I always worry about the out of school and out of work young people in our city. And as employment changes, the issues of employment, you all know what's happened related to employment. Employment is different. And so the fact that there are jobs available, and someone having 3 jobs still can't make it in terms of the city, is that I do hope, and recognizing that it's not just DYCD, but it's DYCD and SDS and HRA and everybody else, is not to lose that group of young people. The numbers have gone down dramatically, and it is clearly the result of all kinds of efforts that have to do with dropout prevention efforts, the kinds of things that are happening in schools, and without question a lot of the DYCD and ultimately nonprofit organizations and what they do. But the numbers are still there, and so I say this is a kind of final kind of drop in the bucket here. I also want to say one other thing about DYCD is having, again, knowing it from the days of being the outsider, in other words, the contractor, and then sitting here, I must tell you, clearly you have more money now, and that helps, but how impressed that I've been in the last years about the quality of the staff whom I've had the opportunity to meet. And it is, I don't want to take away from prior years, but to say to you that it is incredibly reassuring to talk about the quality of the staff. I'm talking about DYCD. DYCD on the contractor side is always hated because there's already somebody said, no, you said you buy 12 pencils and you only bought 11 pencils. Those kinds of things will always be there, but I've been extremely impressed, again, by the staff, the depth of what they know, how hard they work, and again, I've only met a small group of people, and I've also been enormously impressed with the breadth, and just as the way you talk about it today, all the different kinds of programs with the recognition that New York City is only as good as the people who live here. And our young people, you know, it's an old story, you say at every graduation, they're the citizens of the future. And really, so I want to congratulate those of you who are here, I want to congratulate Bill. And it's been, I can't believe it's been this many years. And as I said to everybody, if I can be of any help, and who else is going to be annoying at meetings besides me? But anyway, I'm deeply touched by this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ray. You will absolutely be missed. Your energy, your insightful questions, and I think the challenge stands. And we will be reminded of that every time, and hopefully we will continue to meet that challenge. We're gonna miss you.
I can always come back.
Yes.
It's early. It's early.
Excellent.
Meetings are open to the public.
Absolutely.
They are.
But then I go to have my name and
But you still get the pastries and everything
You
else.
do.
So.
Yeah, coffee now, right?
I got that big difference. I don't know.
We're moving up. So great. So now we will move to a presentation on the New York City Youth Lead Summit. So as you know, we've been engaged in conversations around how to incorporate youth voice into these meetings. And today we're going to have this presentation on the New York City Youth Lead Summit that was held on May 11th. As you may remember, the conference focused on youth leadership and civic engagement. Joyce Duverce, Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships, is here to give us a report on the conference that will include some highlights on what young people expressed on the day, some maybe short videos, maybe not, but we'll create a visual of the day. So thank you, Joyce.
Thank you. So yes, on May 11th, we had over 600 young people come to John Jay College for a youth conference to talk about civic engagement and the change that they're trying to create in their communities. To get that day to be successful, we worked with a host of partners. We had Malik Yoba from, I think you'll know him from New York Undercover. What was the new one? Not Power, with Empire. So I was trying to pull Empire. But yes, more well known for New York Undercover, and apparently that series might be coming back. But what he likes to put on the forefront of his career is the fact that he is a pioneer in social justice, and like Ray, understands that our young people are the future, and he loves to tap into them. So he came and gave a very spirited conversation to the young people and spoke about his path to being a community activist. As well, we had Shawnee Culture from Hot 97. As I said before, all of our engagements, not only do we have DYCD staff, which is very passionate about the work, and members here, but we also try to bring folks that young people can relate to and probably be exciting to the year. So Shawnee Culture came and hosted a panel with our young people who have been doing great work in the community. It was very spirited, it was amazing. The young people were like starstruck when he came forward. But what he likes to say, outside of the fact that he's a producer on Hot 97, is that he too, on his own time, loves to do community engagement, and this is his passion and the work that he loves to do in the community. So our young people were able to hear from people that have very illustrious careers that their passions is to actually connect to the community. So we kicked off the day with that. We also partnered with HITN, the Hispanic Information and Telecommunications Network. They came forward and did one of the workshops of the day, and I'll talk to you about that. We also had folks that did a series of workshops throughout the day, starting at 10 o'clock and went all the way to about 4 o'clock. We had Building Beats come bring forward a presentation on how music and music development can also be contributing factors to a positive career, right? We had Dignity for Children that hosted the Young Sharks workshops. And I'm going to take a pause right here because I think Peter was a little bit humble about his contribution of the day. Young Sharks is a great example of the different pathways that led us to the summit. We had many groups of young people working on different social campaigns and community service projects, and the summit was the culmination to that. But like the Young Sharks, the young people have been working with on 8 to 10 weeks, 12 weeks, months of different projects, and they were able to come and sit in front of folks like Peter McCree, who on that day not only judged, but gave advice, encouragement. They were hanging on every word, so I thank you again. And not only do we have our middle school winners, but we also had our high school winners from El Puente Williams Plaza. Their project was an actual homeless cart, services and products for the homeless population. And I was fortunate enough to be in the room to hear that presentation, and it tugged at my heart because not only were they thinking about what impacts their community, but one of the members was homeless with his mother. And you remember while he was in the shelters, it was difficult for them to get basic services. Soap, shampoo, a shirt. So what they did is created this cart. and in the cart they would get the basic necessities, right, that you need, and also partner with food pantries where they'll be able to go reach to the young displaced people in their communities on the bike and be able to give them care packets. And that was their plan, and they won for the high school competition. So that was just one of the examples, many examples of what the young people were working on. One of the videos I was going to show is in partnership with HITN, is the young people not only did they receive workshops about climate justice and participatory budgeting, but they were able to go to the HITN room and actually create mini docs on that day. They're really cute, really rough. It was their first time producing their own films, but they were able to go across John Jay in different scenes and talk about what it is, how either climate control and climate justice really mean something to them, and what paths that they can take to actually create change. So that was amazing. Another path is our debate, and I believe we took Commissioner into that room. Really cool, right? So a lot that's on young people's minds is Colin Kaepernick, right? And so I think most of us here can create debates or points where we're for what Colin Kaepernick was doing. But the young people also had to learn to debate why they're opposed to what Colin Kaepernick was doing. So we're in prep for that. It was a bit challenging, but on the day it was very spirited, back and forth, and it was amazing. And we had our winners come out from that as well. But the summit is a model that we're trying to do and trying to replicate, where we have our young people receiving instruction from great community-based providers, working with the young people to develop whatever it is that they're working on, and come to one day where they can not only celebrate what they're doing, but learn from one another. One thing that I really want to highlight from the summit is that we have the 600 young people there, but they had free choice and free reign to go into many different rooms and see what their peers were working on. And that was the first time we were able to do that, and they really appreciated that and loved that. It also sparked interest in what they want to participate in next year. So yeah, that was basically the summit, a day of fun. I do want to leave you with this. Take two and pass it around. This weekend is a party weekend at DYCD. As the commissioner said, we have 3 events, but these are 2 events that we're highlighting. Here's a DYCD Film Festival where young people will self-producing their projects. We have over 90 entries, 67 or 68 will be shown on the day. Our commissioner will be there.
There'll be 800 people there, which blew me away. So I've been trying the last 2 commissioners of the mayor's office of media and entertainment to get them to come. So the 3rd commissioner has agreed, and she's going to speak. And part of what I want to do is to expose her to the work we're doing with young people in film. And I want to ask her to help us connect to the studios to do visits and career exploration activities, so that the young people who worked on these films this past year may want to pursue it as a career, and just spend a day during a school break and visit Kaufman Studio or Steinway, or there's like 3 or 4 of them. So the one thing I wanted to point out about the Youth Leader Summit, that the emotional high was at the end. We had Frances Lucerne, the widow of Luis Gardner Costa, the founder of El Puente. She spoke, and this spring we launched the first annual Luis Gardner Acosta Bridging Buildings Grant. Small grants of $1,000 to give to young people to work on community service projects in their neighborhood. So we selected, I think, 20 young people, groups of young people, and they're finishing up those projects before the end of the school year. And it was a way we thought we could remember Luis, who was a pioneer in youth services, who founded El Puente. And so we're going to make that as a relatively small investment. Youth Development Institute administered the grant for us. And so we want to continue his memory through the young people. And they can learn about who he was. So Francis, who had sort of been on leave of absence since his passing in February, this was her first public opportunity to speak about Luis, and it was very powerful. I mean, the one thing I regret, we didn't videotape it, because she told about his story, his impact on young people, and there was not a dry eye in the audience.
Well, I just want to say I'm so glad that came up, and I want to thank DYCD for that program. Both on the heels of the Puerto Rican Day Parade, you know, Luis was a giant to our community and was so important. And I cannot think of a better way to honor him than to really continue to support activism in the community. So thank you to everyone for launching that program.
So you have about the film festival, and the second information you have is about Step It Up. This year we are stepping it up for LGBTQ rights in honor of the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. So we'll have a very lively event this Saturday, and every Step It Up we create a kind of video diary documenting the process and the progress the young people did. And this year we're actually taking a journey through the pioneers that led through the movement. So the young people are able to learn about the folks that actually created change, starting all the way back from the Stonewall. So, yes. So I welcome all of you to come. Feel free to reach out to Alexa and Anthony if you're interested to come, and we'll absolutely welcome you.
Great. Are there any questions on any of these amazing programs? Thank you so much, Joyce. Yes, my daughter's decided to skip a family event because she has to go to Step It Up. I was like, fine. It's a great thing, and I want to be there too. So yes, it's fantastic. I guess, you know, with that, there are a couple of things that maybe I want to toss out to the table. You know, one of the things, several of the things that we want to be focusing on over this, you know, next year is we have a couple of spaces on the youth board, and I'd love for all of us to really kind of think about our networks. And, you know, technology is a sector that we've been thinking about and we can really use some additional representation on. So I think if, you know, you have any good recommendations, please send them and let's talk about it, and let's figure out how we can continue to kind of fill this body with amazing folks to continue to create opportunities for our young people and services. The other thing I guess I'll mention as well is originally this meeting was going to be a site visit in the evening, so thank you all for the flexibility of holding that in your schedule and taking it away. We had some technical challenges around planning, but we do intend to have another site visit. There's nothing like kind of seeing and being in the mix of the programs, and so that is something that we still want to plan. We would love your kind of feedback on that. If it works available, what we were trying to do was to have a site visit and then carve out a little time to spend together, to continue to kind of develop relationship and learn more about each other's work, just as a helpful way to move together as a body and bring some more cohesion. So I think we're still going to use that model and try to plan. We're not quite sure when that's going to happen.
Well, since we're all here together, if we could just indulge in this a little bit. So the plan was originally to do this meeting as an off-site in the afternoon at a Cornerstone program. And as you know, Cornerstones are community centers and public housing developments. We had spoken to a provider of a Cornerstone in East Harlem, and I think one of the reasons why it didn't work out today is because today's a clerical day at DOE, and while they have holiday programming and they're open for programming on these days off, attendance isn't as robust. So we thought it made sense to go back and visit when the program is more in full swing. For those of you who attended our last site visit about a year and a half ago to the Beacon down in Grand Street, that was great because we saw full bustling activity. Since the summer is coming up, there's an opportunity to go back to this Cornerstone and visit some of their summer programming, and that can happen during the day because the programming is the whole day. So we could schedule something in the morning or late morning, and then maybe convene for a lunch or something. I don't know. We can talk about this. Or we could still look at something in the mid-afternoon. Also, because it's summer, we have summer programs across all our program areas, not just in Cornerstone, but also Campus Elementary, Sonic, which is our middle school initiative. So I think this is what Alexa was referring to. It's our choice. What do we feel like seeing? So I think what we could do is follow up, get some more information from you. Maybe we'll do a little poll, but that's kind of the thinking. We have our choice. We can go see a Cornerstone program or a Compass Elementary program or a Sonic program, and they're all in different settings. So I guess more to come on that.
And I guess the last thing I'd also mention is we've had some real conversations around incorporating youth voice at this table. And that is a live conversation. That's something we want to continue to revisit. One of the suggestions was we have quite a number of youth leadership bodies throughout the city in different agencies that we should also tap. And so I just want to remind everyone that that is a live conversation. We are committed to elevating youth voice and want to do that in a meaningful and appropriate way. And so I just, kind of want to remind you we have not lost that. And for those of you who are really interested in further engaging and kind of getting into the weeds of what that could mean for us as a body, please continue to let me know.
So to back up what Alexa said, that's why today we wanted to show some videos from the Youth Beat Summit, and that's why I wanted Joyce to come today to share about the summit as well. And those videos that we were going to show today, I will forward them out. And the thought I had while we were just speaking right now about Luis Gardner Costa was perhaps there could be a presentation at the next meeting or featuring about some of those projects. And if there's a way to get some of those young people here, or to hear from them, either film them to talk about, I think that would be a concrete way to get at this youth voice priority that we have on the board.
So we were trying to get Errol Lewis from inside City Hall to speak at the Youth Leader Summit, and it didn't work with the schedule. So he had a group of 4 young people from the summit, including some of the winners of the Luis Gardner Costa Award, to do a panel on inside City Hall. Unfortunately, it was never posted online. So I kept on looking and looking and looking. We offered Daryl. They didn't want any adults. He wanted young people. So one of the things we're going to be pitching to Errol Lewis, and if anyone knows Errol Lewis can help us, our 5th annual Sonic evaluation has just come out and will probably be a future presentation. And so Deputy Mayor Thompson said, why can't we get more positive coverage? And I said, part of the challenge is it's hard to get coverage about good things in this administration. So one of the things we're thinking about doing, and we're going to pitch it to Errol Lewis's people, is to do, for lack of a better word, an all-star of winners of all the different competitions over the past year. A winner from the Recipe Rescue, from the Heroes Project, from the Sonic Film Festival, from and then because there's no better way to tell the story of our work than the young people. And then the work that we give them choice, give them the opportunity to learn skills, and hopefully they will, this will lay the groundwork for them to be productive adults. So we're trying to figure out how to, because we do all these wonderful events and nobody knows about it. It's frustrating. I mean, the young people know, and the staff knows, and you'll see it on our screen, so the staff who didn't go will know. But it's hard to amplify the positive work that we're doing in many neighborhoods across the city.
Great. So with that, I guess I'd love to open up if anyone would like to offer any updates on things that they are working on, interesting things we'd like to share with colleagues at the table. Does anybody have any events, updates?
Oh, last thing. On your way out, again, as a token of our thanks this year, we have some bags with some DYCD swag. Again, just as a little token of our thanks to all your contributions this year.
So I guess if no updates, we are on time. Meeting, I guess, is adjourned. I want to thank you all for participating, and I hope you have a wonderful summer, and we will see you furiously soon in September. if not sooner. We'll be in touch about programs committee, polling on the potential site visit during the summer, and other things. So thank you again. Thank you so much.